Welcome to Lake SWCD's presentation about water conservation, different lessons in water efficiency for you as a homeowner or a home occupier. Water resources are extremely important to Minnesotans, including those of you in Lake County. Why do you think it's important to conserve water resources? For whom or what do we conserve water? Minnesota usually outlines the conservation of water for swimmable waters, drinkable waters, and fishable waters. So it's important to us that our biology is healthy, that we can use it for recreation, and it can still provide drinking water for humans. To determine how we're impacting our water resources, it's important to understand where water flows. In Lake County, we have a few different watersheds or areas, boundary areas that define where water flows. Most Lake County residents live in the Lake Superior watershed, where all of our waters drain into Lake Superior. Major rivers of the Lake Superior South watershed, which is where Two Harbors is, include the Beaver River, the Knife River, Gooseberry River, and Lester Rivers. Watersheds, or these geographical boundary areas that define where water flows, they help confine our focus on water conservation as they tell us where water comes from and where it's going. Again, watersheds are influenced by topography. If you live in Lake County, you might live in a few other watersheds. You might live in the Lake Superior North watershed if you're in Finland, and you might live in the Rainy River headwaters if you're up in Fall Lake Township and Winton area. And you could live in the Cloquet River watershed as well, which eventually flows into Lake Superior as well, or the St. Louis River watershed. You can find what watershed you live in by visiting Lake County's parcel viewer or their GIS mapping and typing in your address. In the information portion of the parcel viewer for your property or your parents' property, it'll show you which watershed you live in. When we pollute our waters, this has an impact downstream. So if you live in the upper part of a watershed, you might cause pollution in the lower part of the watershed. Pollution in the water can look a few different ways. Pollution can come from nitrogen and phosphorus, which might be from sewage. This can cause eutrophication. So if you've ever seen pictures of the Gulf of Mexico that have green algae all over the Gulf, that's eutrophication, where we're limiting some of the oxygen for fish species in that water. Water pollution can also come from pet waste, geese, or overflow of human sewage, which can lead to E. coli impairments. The picture here is an example of an E. coli impairment, which exists on Skunk Creek in Two Harbors. We are in the process of figuring out exactly where the pollution of E. coli is coming from in Skunk Creek, but we know that it is likely coming from somewhere upstream in the creek as it flows downward and then pollutes Burlington Bay and the outflows into Lake Superior. Storm drains, which carry organic material and then empty into our lakes and rivers, can also pollute our waters, such as through phosphorus. Sediment is also a form of pollution, as it can cause temperatures to rise and reduce habitat availability. In other parts of the state, agriculture often plays a role in water pollution as well, or other forms of urban uses or industry. Why do we care about water pollution? Well, fresh water is an extremely precious resource. Of the Earth's water, 97% of it is in the oceans. Of the remaining 3%, most is trapped in ice in the glaciers. There's only 1% of accessible fresh water in the world, and almost 10% of that is in the Great Lakes. It's also some of the most pristine fresh water in the world, or in the best quality. Water pollution is impacted by the residence time, or how long a molecule of water can stay in a reservoir like Lake Superior. Lake Superior's retention time is 191 years, so one drop of water pollution will actually stay in Lake Superior for 191 years. Water has two ways out of Lake Superior. A right exit spilling towards the Atlantic Ocean through the Sioux Locks on the St. Mary's River, or through evaporation, which is fastest from October to February or in the winter. Here we're also looking at some other data about typical U.S. household water usage. Most U.S. households utilize water for laundry, for showers, for toilets, for watering their lawn, or for other uses like teeth brushing. What about you? How do you use your water? A couple different ways that we can save some of our precious Lake Superior water resources are by changing some of our behaviors. We can take shorter showers, turn off running taps, and change the time of day we water the lawn so that it doesn't evaporate as quickly. We can also collect rainwater in rain barrels or other stormwater catchment systems so that we can use that to water lawns. We can change some of our technology, such as by upgrading to Energy Star appliances or replacing inefficient fixtures. We can also make repairs to leaky faucets or toilets that run constantly and insulate our baths better so we're not constantly replacing it with new hot water. And addressing our outdoor water usage is a really important way that we can reduce that. Like I said, we can collect rainwater. We can also rake and sweep street curbs before spring rains wash debris into sewers, which is a great thing to do in April, which is the time that this presentation is being recorded. As before street sweepers come, we can help some of that salt and sand by sweeping it up and reducing the contributions to our waterways as they run off into storm sewers. If we get back to the fall, we can also rake our fall leaves before rainfall or the first snowfall so that they don't end up in the storm sewers, contributing more nitrogen and phosphorus and other non-point source pollutions to our waterways. These are some tips and tricks for you in your home or your family's home that you can conserve water. Always turn off running water if you're brushing your teeth. Wash laundry with full loads. If you have a septic system, you want to avoid a full laundry day because it can overload your septic system. So you want to wash loads, just one load every couple days. Front-loading washers can also reduce water usage. Eliminate any leaks that you might have. You want to reduce the flow of toilets and shower heads, although you want to make sure that you're getting enough flowage for septic systems. One of the things that I really like to do is I keep a cold bottle of water in the fridge so that whenever I need a glass of water, I don't have to wait for the water to cool from the faucet. Plus, then I don't dirty as many glasses. Composting food can also reduce solid waste and the use of water to process that pretty significantly. One of the best ways that you can reduce water pollution is also to dispose of hazardous waste property, such as old oil. It's also important to consider your diet when we're thinking about conserving water. The average American diet requires approximately 1,000 gallons of water per person per day. The global average for everything, that includes transportation, household needs like showers and toilets, energy, and material goods consumption is only 900 gallons. Eating local can reduce our water footprint, so from local farmers or food you grow yourself. And we want to also eat less meat and dairy. A quarter pounder is worth more than 30 10-minute showers, and a serving of poultry costs 90 gallons of water. Pork can also often be a high waste source for water pollution, so vegetarian-based diets often reduce our water load on the world. So for a normal one person who conserves water, they actually have 139 gallons per day of direct water use. And that's eating meat one time a day. So with all the other indirect water uses that I might have, it's 1,624 gallons per day. The biggest way that I can improve that and reduce my water consumption is by changing my diet and reducing my meat consumption. Because meat and that consumption makes up 1,081 gallons of my 1,624 gallons of water per day. I challenge you to do this activity as well by going to watercalculator.org. You can also get engaged in water conservation and water planning for your area. Look for another presentation from Lake SWCD about water planning in the future. Freshwater Society in Minnesota also offers a Water Master Stewards program. Ask your neighbors and tell them about different ways to engage in water conservation as well. Thank you for listening to our presentation about water conservation.